We have Nicholas Mather, CEO of Solomon Gold, an AIM-listed gold exploration company with a focus on the Solomon Islands and Queensland, Australia. Now, Nicholas, could you just give us an outline of your portfolio that you have with Solomon Gold?
Solomon Gold's main projects are in Solomon Islands on the Pacific Rim of Fire, which is a particularly prolific mineralised part of the Circum-Pacific earthquake rim. And our main projects are Faroe Island, which is in the northern part of the country beside the PNG island of Bougainville, which hosted the large Panguna open-cut porphyry copper gold mine. We also have a joint venture with Newmont on the main island of Guadalcanal. We also have two lower risk projects in Queensland where we hope to define 1 million ounces to bring into relatively quick production.
So it's such an exciting portfolio. How did this come about?
I'm a geologist by profession and opportunist by nature, and I could see great exploration potential on these projects on the Rim of Fire in Solomon Islands that hadn't been well explored, and we actually picked the tenements up there as early as 1995. They were vacant, and we could see that with projects like Grasberg in Indonesia, Oktedi, Lahir, the Panguna mine, that they should continue down the islands to Solomon Islands, and it hadn't been well explored, so that's why we went there.
And what other key drivers do you look for when you're selecting highly prospective sites?
Well, we're particularly interested in the island arc there. It has seafloor subducting or dipping down underneath it from both the Pacific side and the Australian side. That feeds double the metal credits into the systems there twice as quickly. So it should make the mineralisation very rich, and indeed the copper mineralisation that we see in Guadalcanal is very promising.
So is it that, you've got lots of projects, but are you also sort of selecting provinces?
I'm much more interested in building an integrated explorer, developer and mining company here than just looking for one prospect that might turn into a developed mine or resource. So we have a number of different projects. We have actually 7 targets in Solomon Islands, each one of which is capable of leading to a major porphyry copper gold discovery, and these things can be as big as 160 million ounces gold equivalent, as is Freeport's Grasberg project in Indonesia. Frequently in that part of the world they're 40 or 50 million ounces, and making a discovery like that would be a very big accelerant to the market capitalisation of Solomon Gold.
Now, can you explain the experience of the management and technical team that you have with Solomon Gold and how that helps you to achieve your objectives?
Well, I'm a geologist, as I mentioned before. I graduated in 1980 in Queensland, and I've made a career out of looking for very large resource projects on a provincial basis. I like exploring for provinces rather than just simple single targets. And over the years I've been instrumental in creating about $4.5 billion worth of shareholder wealth in the companies that we've started up in a variety of commodities ranging from gas and coal, mineral sands, gold.
Have you got a good following of investors who repeat?
We have a coterie of investors who
have
done well in the past, and they're certainly supporting us in Solomon Gold, and we expect to deliver them with some very good return on their investments. Importantly, though, I'm not the only member of this team. We have a sensational Solomon Islands exploration manager in Jason Ward, who's been instrumental in developing the local relationships with the local people in Solomon Islands, speaks fluent Pidgin, is a real remote area operations specialist, and it's as a result of his efforts that we've been able to get unprecedented access into some of the most prospective exploration ground left in the world. And then Just last year we added a very talented engineer by the name of John Bovard to our board. John was General Manager of Octetti Mining, instrumental in the design and construction of the Porgera gold mine, was instrumental in the design and construction of Missima, managed the super pit in Western Australia. There's not much that John doesn't know about mine development, and it was our intention to get into mining that brought him into the company.
Now, a significant proportion of your activities are centred on the Solomon Islands. How are you finding your activities in the Solomon Islands?
The Solomons is a Melanesian country, so the people there are very proud of their local heritage, and you have to respect that, and we do. We've had a lot of practice at it now. It's a Westminster-style democracy, which we're familiar with, a similar sort of mining act to what we have in Queensland, and the presence of the Regional Assistance Mission, which Australia really heads up in Solomon Islands, is making it a much safer and more dependable place than people really think.
So if we look at your key features of your Solomon Island projects, could you just give us some detail with regards to the JV with Newmont?
There are 4 main projects within the joint venture area: Chikora, Cooma, Betalonga, and the Sudakiki project. We had previously discovered a 32-metre intersection at 9.5 grams at Sudakiki, and it was that and the very large alteration or cooked up rock systems in the area that cover anywhere between 20 and 30 square kilometres at each of those locations that suggests both to us and I think to Newmont that there's indeed some very great potential to find not just one but possibly several of these world-class porphyry copper gold systems in the project area.
Okay, so let's move to Australia. In late 2009 and early 2010 you acquired 2 companies that have exploration projects in Queensland, Australia. Can you tell us what your intentions are with this?
The projects that we acquired are both located very close to gold mines which are actually owned and operated by Newcrest. It's coincidental that they're both owned by Newcrest, but the first of these and the most important of them is the Rannies project in central Queensland, and we have a 200-kilometre long stretch of tenements up the eastern side of the Bowen Basin, and the world's largest gold deposits are in sedimentary basins on the edge of those basins. The Carlin Trend in Nevada in the USA is a very good example of that, and we believe that we have a long trend of Carlin style or Carlin like mineralisation on the edge of the Bowen Basin in Queensland. At Rannies we have 3 main mineralised areas, and the centre of those, Rannies Central, we have 5 increasingly well-defined prospects, one of which has already yielded a 200,000 ounce gold equivalent resource, and we're working on the other 4 prospects to get them into the resource category too.
So there was certainly enough attractive features with the acquisition of those 2 companies? Yeah,
there were no resources on it when we acquired them, but we see ample exploration upside, and that's materialising at the moment. So we're going to be having a continuous program of information releases about the drilling results out of both of those projects.
Okay, and can you give us a bit more detail on the timeline and your plans for the Australian projects? You know, you mentioned 2 million ounces target at Rannies and 1 million target at Mount Perry.
Initially we're looking for 1 million ounces on which to base a pre-feasibility study prior to a development decision in the Rannies area. Our program there has been delayed quite seriously by the very heavy rainfall in the area. We did have 10 years of pretty much drought conditions in Queensland, but it's been bucketing down. Drilling rigs get bogged and it just slows the whole process down. So we should be having a resource upgrade in February, and that would lead to, we won't get the whole 1 million ounces in February, but we'll be speeding it up. So I would be hopeful that sometime in the first half of next year we'd be able to end up with the resource statement around 1 million ounces at Rannies, and certainly a maiden resource statement from Mount Perry.
Okay, the market has responded extremely well to Solomon Gold stock in, I suppose, the last couple of months. Can you give us some information about what's happened with your stock and the share price, and how you see that going forward?
The market did respond very well to the release of some very encouraging surface sampling results that we got on Faroe Island, and that was because I think people are pretty well informed about the significance of good results from areas that have high prospectivity, and the coincidence of those results with very strong magnetic anomalies gave a fair bit of credence to our assertion that there are indeed some big porphyry targets underneath the high-grade surface gold results that we got at on Faroe Island. And that was just the western half of Faroe Island, and we have now been granted the eastern half of the project area there, and so I'd expect an expansion of the available gold prospect inventory at Faroe Island, so there could be more to come.
Yeah, so there could be more excitement with further news flow?
Oh, we're certainly expecting that. We start drilling on Faroe in 2 weeks' time. We've got a 10,000 metre program there, testing both the deep porphyry potential and the shallow gold cap targets, and I'm very optimistic that we'll end up with some good results there. I certainly put money into the last raising myself, and I have a strong belief in the future of the company.
Okay, investors are always concerned about natural resource companies, having cash. Where do you stand in terms of cash in the bank?
Sandra, after our big run up, we got a lot of interest from companies that and funds and managers that I'd previously presented to, and our brokers Fairfax and Nomad in Sydney, RFC Corporate Finance, got a lot of inquiries too, so we decided to arm ourselves with the cash needed to go through the next value adding stage, and we raised £15.1 million at 28p, and I'm pleased to say that we got a lot of institutional support and interest, particularly from Baker Steel and Regent Pacific, which having both of those funds on board certainly helps give our project some credibility.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicholas, and we'll be watching Solomon Gold.
Thank you.